Pops, and welcome to another conversation about Mayor of Kingstown, Season 2, Episode 7. It has been a great ride. It has been a ton of fun watching this show. This episode is sort of the filler, sort of transitionary and setup towards what I think will be more of the wrap towards Season 2's end. Because there's a lot of little things that happen in this episode. We don't really build towards a big climax like we've had at other episodes, but this one's really, really solid. As of course, we get a lot more of character development. Everybody's stories and little subplots are all moving forward simultaneously. They do a great job of balancing a whole lot of things with Mike kind of in the middle. Mike's always being jockey and pull. Jeremy Renner does a fantastic job as Mike the mayor. So we have sort of a follow-up to the big shock end of last time, right? The DA gets assassinated in the parking garage. The DA was going holier than thou. He's not going to reverse on the deals. He's not going to let any of the generals out of the prison. He thinks he's above all of that. The politics and stuff has gone to his head. And Mike meets with Bunny and says, listen, what were you thinking? Right? And there's a drone watching, which I thought was okay. That was abrupt. That was interesting. So one of the subplots of this episode is there's a drone watching, and who and what and why is the drone there, right? So Mike does call in a favor with Carney. Carney is the guard. He basically asks him, you're not with the Aryan Brotherhood. So no, I hate all of them. I hate all the prisoners. He hates everybody equally. So he's okay. I want a favor then. And the favor is actually pretty cool. And it gave me a little film nerddom in the mix. So when they cut back to that scene, he's leading them in kind of like this suspenseful moment. It's kind of playing out. But basically, Carney's taking a Bunny and his bro to an empty area, which turns out to be a kitchen. And they have this like Godfather versus Goodfellas, right? And of course, the answer is it is Goodfellas. Sorry, guys. There is cooking and dinner scene in Godfather, but no, the scene of question is Goodfellas, by the way. And when they cut back to them actually cooking and tasting food, you hear that drone again. And drone's calling, and Bunny's calling Mike. And there's where we get the whole big thing about who's actually operating the drone. Yeah, it's one of the Aryan Brotherhood's friends, right? And Mike actually attacks him, answers the phone, says, honor your part of the deal kind of thing. So that little subplot moves forward. I like the fact that it was, I think, again, this is like manufactured filler stuff of different subplots. They threw a lot of little pieces together all in one episode because Mike is doing like 16 things in this episode. I wish I could say this is one subplot that matters or it's a big thing. It's just one thing, right? Mike is rolling up on the street, right, where the blacks and the ABs are nearly going to cut loose and just start mowing each other down, right? You have Mike visiting Evelyn, right? She's the assistant DA. I assume she's the DA now. That's his little friend with benefits. And they had this little back and forth about war. There's going to be no peace. There's no Band-Aid big enough to stop this bleeding. And Mike's like, no, you don't understand what you're dealing with here. And she's like, quiet is a luxury for peacetime. We're at war now. And he's like, well, the war ends when you sign the treaty. This is the treaty. And Mike seems like he's the only one that understands like the code of ethics that drives the streets, and what drives the streets works with what's in the prison. And that's what kind of keeps everything sort of like under control. And without that, the bloodbath and the violence just spills out everywhere. And it has several times during the show. And we'll see it again probably at the end of the season, in my opinion, right? We have a little bit more of like a phone call with Mom and Mike. Remember, Mom is like the weird character in all of this. Like she's sort of like the bleeding heart liberal. She's trying to help this kid in juvie who's asking for Mike's help. All right, it's fine. It's like it's not anything of any major significance. We don't really need the mom, but she's there. Like she's no Sopranos mom, that's for sure. So let's see, what else do we have? So Kyle's the brother. He's there. He's supposed to be on duty. He's getting back to work, and they're dealing with this internal affairs situation. So if you remember the end of season 1, the big prison riot is finally coming to fruition with the internal affairs. They're going after Robert, and there's a scene where Kyle's being told by the captain that Robert is basically going to be their scapegoat. They want a body. Talking about politicians, talking about the press, and Robert, who's been like the stud, right? He's basically like the Punisher of their SWAT team. He's the one that rescues these cops that were stuck in the prison when that all happened. He's the one that's going to get thrown under the bus. And Kyle doesn't really know how to take it. It's really getting to him. He's drinking. When Robert finds them later at the bar, they're all there together talking about how he found the rat. Mike is the one that volunteers. He'll go see this person. We've already seen confrontation when Mike goes and does these things. So that kind of sets up more tension going forward. Ian has a little subplot as well with this killer that he's going to. It was a scene where he took the dude the sandwich, the cheeseburger, and it's like a bribe session to get information about where the victims are. And the killer starts praying and asks if Ian will pray. There's conversation and back and forth about, finding the body that was dismembered and talking about taking him to the dentist, getting him out from behind. His name is Charlie. Talking about getting him out from behind the fence, that kind of thing. And then Kyle sees Iris. Now, Iris, there's a quick little shot where she's in the Russian sort of prostitution house / club. And there's a girl there giving her grief, whatever. She just wants to see Milo. And then we see that Kyle sees her later on. That's all that really happens with her subplot. And you see a little bit with like Kyle and his wife, and you have little elements. So again, this was like a filler episode where we had our big incident. This is going to be, I think, the end of episode 6 is more like the pivot point of the season. There's not going to be going back on that. There may be a price to pay for that. And will all of this other stuff move forward or not in different ways is what they basically are setting up. They're kind of recalibrating all of our subplots as we move towards the wrap up for season 2. So that's my take on Mayor of Kingstown. I don't know if you guys are watching or not. I think it's one of the best shows on television right now. It's definitely graphic, intense, violent. It's got nudity. It's a freaking mess, but it's also extremely well written. Tons of great characters, great acting, great execution. Everything about it is very, very immersive. It's a show I think that's definitely top tier. That's for sure. So that's my take on it. I am Pops. Thank you so much for watching.